ADWradio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower right here in absolutely gorgeous Northport, Florida. Just a few minutes delayed on my behalf, and I have to apologize. I was out showing houses today, so doing a little work on the backside of the radio station. How about that? So I've got a really special guest in the house who is a first-timer on the show, along with multiple other people. So I'll let Coach take the helm and introduce himself and tell us a little bit about why we're on the air today.
You can do it. You got it. So Coach Ryan Power, been in Northport High School. This season ended my sixth year there. And we're basically just trying to spread the message of what we're coaching our guys, the accomplishments that we've been able to achieve over the last 6 years, and just the direction that Northport High School is headed into. I'm excited to have a couple of our players on. My dad, who also coaches over on the East Coast of Florida, is going to join us, and a couple of our assistant coaches as well. So just looking forward to having a good time talking some basketball.
Outstanding. There are several people on the screen right now because we actually do live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We've got a whole bunch of outlets to get the information out. So you guys are in the background. Just if you can mute things, if you're making noise, that's awesome. You can mute yourself. If not, just try to be a little quiet. But I'm going to let Ryan kind of introduce who's on the screen and who's going to be on the show.
You got it. So on my screen on the bottom right, we've got Luke Davis. This was his first year as the JV basketball coach with us at Northport High School. He just moved here from Kansas City or around that area, and he got to spend a year down here in Florida. Instead of being in snow right now, he's in 80-degree weather, which I think he's loving. The next guy is Zach Babbitt. He's the one wearing the backwards hat there.
He had to cover something up. I'm not sure what he did there. He did kind of cover something up.
Might be a bad hair day on his end.
Well, I have those myself almost every day, so it's no problem.
But ironically, I coached him my very first year at Northport. He won the MVP award, and now he is a part of the staff for the last 2 to 3 years. I think he brings an awesome dynamic to the coaching staff. You've got Jackson and Elijah, who are current players in the program. They're both sophomores that had great years for us on varsity. And then my dad, Guy Power, who I'm excited to have joining us. I just gave him a call, and he said he was available, so should be fun.
That's awesome. That this is really on our side of things, on my side of things. This is the first time having this many people on air at the same time via StreamYard, and it's really cool because we almost could have a basketball team going right here.
I call point guard. We'll put Jackson or Elijah in the middle.
Awesome. So I actually going to slide down to Luke real quick, and go ahead and unmute yourself, Luke. And I just want to ask you what your feeling is about the JV program and how it's going and how you're developing players to play at the next level at the high school.
Yeah, so this year we had a really solid JV team. Obviously, this is being my first year at the school and in the area. It was just kind of tough to just get a grip of everything, all the surroundings, all the schools and players and things like that. And so I think we did a really good job. Zach and I, we had a strong guard group that's going to transfer on to the varsity level next year. And then we also had some freshmen that we tried to develop, get them ready to make that next step next year as sophomores on JV. So we try to model a lot of things that Coach Power does as far as being defense's first guys, playing mostly man-to-man, running the court. Those are all things that I like to do as a player, and I liked my teams to do as well. And so when I met Ryan and we went through the process of trying to bring me on, we just kind of saw eye to eye on a lot of stuff, and really just I think we both had the same intentions as far as developing these guys, not only to get basketball players, but to young men, to make sure that they're prepared when they get out of high school, and that not all they know is basketball. So I think we definitely see eye to eye on that as an entire coaching staff. And so it's worked out really well on my end.
Well, you clarified a lot of things in there, because the fact that you're modeling what the kids are going to go into, and I'll go back to Coach Power for a second.
Mm-hmm.
When you model, and I know this from the youth wrestling program at Northport, because I helped start that. My son was a wrestler at the high school, graduated 08, and when we modeled what Mark Kimball or Coach Kimball was doing around our youth program, that's when we really kind of advanced those kids to a whole nother level once they hit the varsity side of things. Do you kind of feel the same thing is happening within your program now?
Definitely.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
my bad, Coach Davis, my bad. And I think some other programs in the area do it as well. I think our offenses that we run similar. And no matter how good a kid is at basketball, if he's slow-footed when it comes to the offense that you run, he's going to be second-guessing himself. So the more experience you can get in that offense at the JV level, the quicker decisions and more comfortable he's going to be at when he gets to the varsity level. And I think that's one thing offensively and defensively. Coach Davis and Coach Babbitt did a good job of coaching the same way that we do at the varsity level. And I think it's really going to pay off moving forward.
And Zach, where do you kind of feel like you fit in right now as maybe an ex-player into the young group of guys you got now? How do you feel like that relationship and that bonding is going?
Yeah, I mean, there's some times where it's great and sometimes where it can be maybe a little more challenging because I'm almost closer in age to a lot of these guys. I actually had the opportunity, I think it was 3 years ago, to coach actually Jackson at Woodland Middle School. Okay. That was where I first started coaching. Coach Power hit me up and was like, Zach, Woodland has an open job. I think you should put in for it. So I went ahead and did that. And we actually had a great year. And then at the end of that season, Coach Power asked me to come coach over there. So that's kind of how I got started over there. And it's definitely a learning experience for me when to say stuff, when to not. So I'm still kind of trying to learn all that, but it can get challenging at times, but it's coming along.
So I'm going to go back to Luke, and after I ask you this question, I want Luke to answer the same thing, because I might have a few years on both of you. So I just want some clarification on what level I'm talking to. What's your age, Zach?
I'm 22 years old.
And Luke?
I'm 24.
All right. So at 22 and 24, which of you two saw what you were doing today 5 years ago?
I always knew whether it was playing at the next level or not, I always still wanted to be around the game. So I always had envisioned coaching in some aspects, whether it was middle school, high school, but eventually one day, hopefully I'll be able to be a head coach somewhere. So that's the ultimate goal for me. So we'll see where it takes me.
Well, you gotta have baby steps, Luke.
Yeah, I honestly, I played for a really, really good coach back in Missouri. He was already in the Hall of Fame when I was able to play for him. And he was my PE help teacher my freshman year of high school. And my freshman year of high school, I was like, I want to be a teacher and a basketball coach. And ever since then, it's just kind of been the route, the plan. I did get to play for a year in college, and I knew I wasn't going pro or anything like that. But just to get that experience, and everything that I was doing was going to be geared towards someday being a head coach.
Well, and talk about Coach Powers. Talk about the foundation that your dad set for you, because obviously you've had some pretty heavy influence from him. But talk about the foundation he set for you, and what you're trying to set in really recruiting some younger guys and giving them the flexibility to grow into their positions.
Definitely. The one thing that I learned from my dad from an early age was to enjoy basketball and not to take it seriously, because the reality of the situation is not many people are going to get to go to college due to it. Everybody wants to be able to, and not many people are going to get to play professionally. So biggest thing was enjoy doing it. And the more you enjoy it, the more you're going to want to live to be in that basketball gym. If you're going into the basketball gym and you're not enjoying the process, and you're dreading looking and not looking forward to it, it can feel more like a job than something that you love. And I remember when I was young, we'd go to the YMCA over the summer, probably 5 days a week. We would go to the basketball court inside, and then we'd go out to the pool at the YMCA, go back into the basketball court, and then head home. And he showed me also the work ethic that it's going to take for guys to become as good as they need to be. If guys have aspirations of wanting to play in college, like I said, if they enjoy being in the gym, that's the one thing I learned from him. If you enjoy it and you're willing to put in those hours, good things can come from it.
Well, and I want to talk a little bit about what expectations are, because I've had some contact within your program from outside. I haven't been to a lot of games, and I really apologize for that, because I enjoyed the time that I came over there and walked onto the court. I really have the utmost respect for the program, because I've got a lot of years connected at Northport High School. But the one thing I really want you to talk about is the expectation set on practice and the court, and why you dial in really on self-discipline and team discipline. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Correct. Yeah. So once the guys have made it to the high school level, I feel like it's a chance for them to really learn things using the sport, that they can adapt to the sport and off of the court. So things that we don't tolerate are like being late to practice, which is something that they can take into the classroom or to a job in the future. We don't tolerate guys arguing with each other, so that they learn how to communicate with healthy habits. The other thing is the teamwork side of things. We really feel other schools in the state of Florida, in the Orlando area, Miami area, those guys are going to have some athletes that we're probably not going to produce here in Northport. However, if we can get our guys to act as one unit out there on the court and use chemistry to play both offense and defense, we feel that gives us the best opportunity to be able to beat teams that may have a little more talent or a little more size than we do.
Well, and the discipline side of things, I want to address that a little bit, because I've watched a lot of programs out there that they play their star athletes, and star athletes can have their oops moments, as they have their oops moments also. And for me, I kind of watch a star athlete who's been coddled over their whole career, and they tend to get away with more. And I don't think they learn a lot from that, because I've watched some interviews recently with J.R. Smith and the interviews that they're doing on TV now that he's kind of end of his career. He looks back now differently at what he did on the court before and outside of being on the court, and had a dad of good influence, and actually talked about the fact that his dad said, "You get it now. You understand it now. The only difference is I wish you would have learned it when I was trying to teach it to you. But the fact that you learned it, I feel so much better."
Yeah.
Do you ever feel that same? And I give that example because as a coach, I still talk about my coaches when I was in middle school and high school. I still know them. There's a couple of them I still communicate with, and I wasn't I wasn't that superstar athlete, but I outwork everybody there. Okay,
correct.
Run everybody there, and so we had this bond. Okay, and I know you have those bonds, but do you have those moments where you have to really kind of discipline a player, even though he's a superstar? You have to kind of say, "Listen, rules are rules."
I think when those opportunities do present themselves, it's almost like a present to you, because if you show that you're going to hold your best player to this level, that's telling everybody else on the team that they're going to have to be on this level as well. Whereas as soon as you start treating a high school player as if he's better than other people, those guys that are on the team as well are going to follow those bad habits and things like that. I've been very fortunate in the 6 years that almost every year our best player has had a great work ethic, very good attitude, and been committed to the program. I know moving forward, unfortunately, Elijah's phone died on him. He sent me a text, I got 1%, and then he went out. But we also have Jackson here, who is one of our leaders, and we're going to be looking forward to for the next 2 years to set the tone. But anytime you can discipline that superstar guy, that's showing that it doesn't matter who you are. This is our standard, and everybody's going to have to live up to it. And the moment you get away from that, I think, is the moment that your program starts heading in the wrong direction, because you're going to start allowing negative habits to start infiltrating it from the inside.
Well, let's go over to Jackson. Can you unmute yourself for a second here real quick, because I'm going to bring you on. What is your take as a player of the Northport program?
I think it's a great program. I've been in it for a really long time, ever since a kid. I go into the summer camps, the kids camp, and every year I've been there, Coach Power was there, and I just really like the program ever since I've been in it. Really good energy, and somebody's always got your back there.
And how's the camaraderie within the locker room?
I feel like everyone's always on the same page in the locker room. You know, once it's game time, everyone gets locked in.
So I heard something in that first start of that answer. So I have to ask you, why the chuckle?
Well, you know, sometimes if we win or we're getting hyped for a game, it gets a little wild in there. Everyone's screaming, we're playing music. But other than that, yeah, we get really focused up before games and really happy when we win.
Wouldn't you call that a great atmosphere for you?
Yeah, definitely.
Because I know that the chuckle could be taken a couple different ways. It could be taken that you don't want to talk about it, or it could be taken that you want to talk about it, but you don't want to really tell what goes on behind the scene, right?
No, I love talking about it. I love my teammates. Yeah, the locker room is definitely a really good place for getting hyped before games.
So what's your goal? What do you want to do as the athlete you are today? What grade are you in, and where do you want to go with your experience at Northport?
I'm a sophomore, and you know, obviously, I really want to play college basketball. And if I do get the opportunity, I'll just see where it takes me from there.
Well, the beauty, and I'm gonna go back to Coach Powers here real quick, but the beauty in having a kid like that, he didn't name a college level.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't name a college.
Yeah.
It's kind of wide open. And isn't that the perfect scenario for you as a coach to bring a kid in, mold him, and then get him into a program? Because I believe that your goal is, one, to get him to play ball, but two, education.
Yes, definitely. And Jackson is one of the guys that's putting himself in a great situation where he doesn't have to name a college, because his GPA, I want to say his unweighted GPA is above a 3.5. I don't know what it is exactly off the top of my head. But anytime you're taking care of business in the classroom, that's going to open up opportunities at any level once you get to the college aspect of things. And then by that time, if your GPA is good enough, myself and the coaches are not guys that are going to sit here and lie to kids and say you're going to be a Division I player by the time you graduate our program. We try to be extremely realistic with them and tell them, here's the level we feel you're at. If you can do this, this, and this, you might be able to achieve that level. Or based off of your size, athleticism, this is where we think you would fit in best. But Jackson is one of the guys that, over my 6 years, one of the guys that I've been more excited than others about, because I've seen just how dedicated, like he said, he's been coming to our kids camp for 6 years. So I've had a relationship with him since probably third grade, right, Jackson?
Yeah, just about.
Like third grade. And And every year we've seen progression with him and progression. And he led the team this year in assists, steals. He was second in deflections. And as a sophomore to do that, moving forward, the future is extremely bright for him and some other guys in the program.
So you had a record this year of 12-13 overall, right?
Yes, correct. That is right. We were hoping it would switch a little bit, but that's how we ended up.
Well, and there's always wrinkles within a year. Did you have some unforeseen injuries this year that kind of held you back too?
The guy we expected to be one of our better players and athletes, his name is Dylan Almeida. He's 6'5", extremely athletic, extremely strong. He led the team in rebounding as a junior and averaged 9 points a game as a junior. Coming into his senior year, he was playing football. And he had a back injury coming off of football, but we didn't know how good or bad it was. He tried as hard as he could for about a week and a half to play on it, but then he had to take the rest of the season off. So we ended up missing out on Dylan, who definitely would have had an impact on multiple games this year. So being able to take a senior who we had extremely high expectations of and replace him with someone like Elijah, who was on here earlier, who's a sophomore who ended up having a phenomenal year. I think it hurt us a little bit this year early on because we could have had a little more success early. But at the end of the year and for moving forward, it built us up to really be able to make a couple runs here over the next 2 years.
Awesome. So I'm going to go to Guy Power here real quick because he's probably got the senior insight, one of you, but two about listening to the program. So Mr. Power, can you give your insight on what you've seen at Northport High School since your son's been a coach there?
I can say that above and beyond my expectation of what he was going to bring, and he brought something to that program that continued a great fundamental style of basketball. And just to get wins are wonderful. It's great to have a winning season, but if you have kids that just play hard all the time, regardless of what the score is and what your record is, that's a sign of a coach that is doing a great job.
And have you been coaching for a while yourself?
I've been coaching since he was pretty small. Pretty small.
I kind of felt like there was some history there.
There's a lot of history. I can go back to his middle school years where I was the assistant coach for his middle school program, and just the job of making these kids better kids. It's just not about basketball. It's about being a student, being an athlete, being a teammate, and teaching them how to play and how to get along.
So I've got a question for you because we've watched in our lifetimes, and I'm not including or disincluding any of these guys because they've seen changes too, but we've got to be relatively close in age. So I'm going to ask, the athlete of today was not the athlete of 20 years ago. And the style of getting into the mindset of a younger player today, I think is more difficult than it was before. Do you see that as how people are adapting, and even yourself in today's athletic world, adapting some skill set that you had in a different manner to try to get inside their heads and let them know it's just not about how you can dribble?
Yeah, that's one way to put it. I really try to explain to them that everybody wants to be an NBA player, and there's like 50 kids that get to play in the NBA every year that didn't play last year.
There's perspective.
College is wide open. from NAIA up to Division I, I've had the opportunity to coach players over the last 20 years that have played in all of them. And it's a mentality that these kids have to learn, that it really is. It's really about a program and how it gets built. But today's kids are not necessarily that much different than 20 years ago. It's more that how the game has evolved into what it is right now.
Oh, and I listen, we're part of social media right now. We're doing something now that we didn't have this access before. So kids get seen at all different levels at different schools for different reasons, comparable to football and other sports, that if you're in the right situation, you're in the right program, you're doing the right things, there's enough video out there now being shared everywhere to different organizations countrywide at all these colleges, that they're able to see a lot of talent that they didn't get to see before. And I look at I think that's the difference that I see in players today versus the players of old. It's not that they don't work harder. We all worked hard at what we did. You know, the mindset in a basketball player and a football player are relatively the same. They all think they're going pro. And there's just more opportunity in one than the other. That doesn't mean there's a bigger input. They're just, when you go to that pro level, if you look beyond high school, I can name LeBron. There's a couple others out there, but you're talking about guys who had the skill set to skip that, and yet they still talk about what if they did go to high school or college, the impact that they could have had differently in their life that they didn't go to college. And they talk about that frequently. And I love the fact that he brought you on the air to discuss this, because the foundation that you set is definitely is definitely growing right now at Northport because of you.
Well, I appreciate that. I can tell you that we spent many winter breaks, those 2 weeks that we get off as teachers every year around Christmas. I live over on the East Coast in Jensen Beach, which is Martin County just won the state 6A championship. They're across the bridge from us, and we spent many years going back and forth to the City of Palms tournament,
which is an amazing tournament.
And I happened to be good buddies with Donnie Wilkie, and Ryan had a chance and an opportunity to see what elite programs really do at a very young age, and the fact that those elite programs and those coaches held every person responsible in the same way. It wasn't that, oh, well, I have Glenn Davis and he's scoring 35 points a game and getting 25 rebounds a game. That wasn't what it was about. It was about, if we're going to win, this is what we've got to do. So, you know, it just lays a great foundation for someone as a player as well as a coach where he is now, and what it means to do something like this. Because coaching is a job that is a thankless job that a lot of people don't realize.
And I'll agree with you, but I will promise you the impact that you've had, that Ryan has had, that Luke is having, that Zach is having, that absolutely changes a program for a long time. And I'm going to go to Ryan here real quick, because there was a foundation set at Northport and a mindset set at Northport, and we lost Kurt Allen. And I know that I still get goosebumps because way too young. But the program itself I don't know that the program would have been as advanced as it was if there wasn't someone like Kurt before yourself. Can you talk about that transition and the influence that he had on the program that you got to carry on? And really, I don't want you to talk about it in the fact that it was built, because I know for a fact he never thought it was complete. Just like I never think that anything that I build is complete, and I'm sure your dad thinks the same way, because there's always something to do better. But I think that Kurt Allen had that mindset that he just knew the program was there and that the next person could take it on. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Definitely. With Northport opening or being the newest school in the area by far, I mean, we just opened, I believe it was 2001. In the first couple of years, I don't know how much success they had. And then when Kurt got there, he changed things. And
He did.
With him passing, I've got a lot of his alumni have been coming back to the area to see the program and visit and get involved and things like that. And the one thing I've taken from them, they don't ever talk about how many wins he had. And he had a lot of regular season wins under his belt. The thing that I think resonates most with me is they talk about how much of a great person he was and how much they affected his life off of the basketball court. So for me, that's something that goes into my coaching, is trying to develop positive relationships with everybody, which is something that Kurt had obviously established when he was there. In between Kurt and I was Travis Slanger, who also did a good job.
Good job too.
As well. And I got very fortunate with Kurt before Travis, and then Travis, two great coaches before me. A lot of coaches that are taking over or walking into a program that might not have had very high standards. Players may have been, like you were talking about, superstars may have been allowed to act like they were a superstar or just not held to standards and things like that. I was very fortunate. When I got there, players had high expectations, and my job was to keep my expectations where I believe we needed to keep them, and then raise the bar in specific areas as well, which every year that we've done it, like you said, when I first started doing it, I said, we need to do this, this, and this. And now that I'm doing it 6 years later, there's things that I've added onto that list that I didn't even know were a possibility when I started doing it 6 years ago.
With everything that's transitioned now, do you feel like the community has wrapped their hands around the program and as far as sponsorships and kind of talk about how that's developed since you've been?
It's interesting because, like I was saying, us being the newest high school, our alumni base is nowhere near as strong as, say, a Charlotte high school who's been around for 80 years.
Yeah.
Or Venice High School that's been around for who knows how long, Port Charlotte as well. So a lot of these people that are starting businesses in this area are actually alumni from those schools, and they look to support their schools. And the one thing I have seen recently is our alumni that are graduating are now at an age where they're starting to start their businesses. Fortunately, our basketball program has had some pretty good success over the last 10 years. So not only do we have the alumni that are trying to be a part of the program, we also have other businesses that have seen the success that we've had, and they want to be a part of it as well. So anytime we can use a sport to bring the community get together, I think that pushes not only the basketball program forward, but all of the people in the area as well.
So I'm going to go back to the school for a second, because the school in general is newer, but I want to talk just real quick, because there's something to be said about kids being able to play ball and pass their courses and, be taught well. The one thing that as a realtor I always get asked is, what's our schools like? I'm like, okay, I got to be careful as a realtor.
Yeah.
But I'm not a realtor at the moment. I'm just a show host. So what's the importance of the faculty at the high school and being part of the faculty and a newer part of the faculty? What has it meant to you to see the support you have within the walls there?
I've been fortunate. The administrators that I've had over the last 5 or 6 years, I think it's a combination of running the program well as the administrators having faith in what we're doing on the basketball program. That anytime that we've needed to do something, not only has the administrators had our back, but the staff has as well. And I think we have one of the best educational schools in the area. We've been an A school for the last 2 years. When you look at some of the other schools around us, they can't say that same thing. I don't know what it is, but it seems like there's like something about Northport that when people think of it, they don't realize that it is a good educational school. And it goes, a lot of our staff do go above and beyond. I know for me, I leave school right at 2:30 and start basketball, and we finish at 4:30. And there's a lot of times where me, Coach Davis, Coach Babbitt are leaving school, and there's still a good amount of staff parked in that parking lot that are grading papers and creating lesson plans to make sure that the kids are successful.
So the narrative that I kind of hooked you up with just now is the reason that I asked the question, is that the reason that people don't know that is we don't ever talk about it. We just let people run with their narrative that, oh, it's Northport, it's South County. I'm tired of it. All right, take North County and I can say that it's Real Talk Radio. I'm done. I'm done with the comparisons. I tell people that all the time. If next time you want to run a community down, why don't you visit it? Yeah. I've had North County people say we're overrun with gangs. Come on down. The basketball team is on the court. That's our gang. Seriously, if you want to find damaging information about a community, it's not hard to find it in Sarasota County. You can find it everywhere. There's a little piece here, a little piece there, but we're kind of blessed as a community overall because I think our community is wrapping their hands around our educational system here. Not so much because of what the people are saying. I think we have a very young teaching staff at Northport High School. I think we have really young coaching staffs. I do. But I think that that's a bonus at the same time. I don't think they've ever learned that the word no means anything. I don't think the word fail means anything to them. I think they want to build this school and the athletic programs to be everything they can be. And I think there's a little bit more fight in the dog because everybody else keeps thinking we're not.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I know the thing I tell our guys all the time is, one, we want to win a district, regional, and state championship. But the other thing we want to do is get it done in the classroom. And you can't do that if the staff isn't helping you. No, in the 6 years I've been there, we've been lucky enough, or talented enough, I guess to say, to win 2 district championships with Coach Babbitt being a part of them. But in another year, we won the state academic championship as well, which shows that not only are we getting it done on the basketball court, we're also getting it done in the classroom. So when you hear people talk about Northport, the area and the school, and they have, like you said, a narrative that there's some sort of weird population, I think we have an extremely hardworking and extremely gritty population that want to be able to work through things and find ways to be successful, whereas some people up in that Sarasota region maybe just handed them from the time that they start school.
Well, and there's something to be said about working for what you're going for. And I told you earlier, I wish I would have come over to even more practices because I watched you guys at a practice and then you kind of let me interject some things, a couple comments. But what I was really impressed with was the fact that even though I wasn't a coach, I was a visitor at that point, the respect that I got was off the charts. And there's something to be said about that. You just don't bring somebody and walk in and you're allowed to say things.
Yeah.
And unless you have the bond, we've kind of known of each other. We've not hung out a lot, but you know that I've got people there that I have hung out with. So there was a little bit of credibility there, but the fact that the kids and young men, okay, and I hate to say kids, but they're younger than me. I got to say kids because Luke and
Heck,
Zach.
I even call them kids.
So it's, in fact, Ryan, you're a kid to me, so
Yeah.
it's all good. The only one I feel like I can have this conversation with is Guy. You know, I feel like I'm good right there. So
Yeah.
I look at it, and the fact that we're talking about basketball as a totality of the school. We're not looking at basketball, and we're just not talking stats. I know we're going to get into that in a minute, but
Yeah.
I think what is impressing me the most, and what continues to impress me, is your kids are a reflection of who you are and who your coaching staff is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the building block that everyone who has a program focuses on, but they've not had to build it from new. A lot of these coaches that go to other schools, they're already there. They're already, you're building something now that, you know, the Kurt Allens, and all of them, the Coach Mitchell and baseball, and Coach Rowe in baseball and football, and all these guys had a vision. Okay. So having that vision and having the school behind it and trying to build the community relationship with that, I think the community's starting to wrap their hands around it. I think the community's starting to get it. I think we're getting some good businesses around us that are contributing into the signage in the basketball on the basketball court itself and in the arena. You know, I just see the community involvement to be something that is a reflection of leadership. And I want you to talk now about leadership, but I want you to talk about the kids that you see are leading your program now, that may have shocked you, even that they settled in and started taking that leadership role. Can you talk about that?
I think, ironically, the guy that probably was our most valuable player this year was a sophomore. And going into the year, we didn't even know if he was going to be a starter or not. I know me and Coach Babbitt, Coach Davis wasn't around as much over the summer since he had just moved here. But over the summer, me and Coach Babbitt and Coach Mack had multiple conversations where we said, who's going to be the starter between Elijah and Bradley, who was returning. And Bradley had a very good year as well. But a guy that we're looking for would be Elijah Lubsey. I think this year he was our best player, and he's just scratching the surface. And the irony is, when he was at Heron Creek, I don't even think he saw the court really. Wow. And then all of a sudden, we found out that he's got really good footwork, and we said, you need to get into some shape so that you can actually get up and down the court, put that footwork and skills together. He's been able to do that. Now he's playing on an AAU team with Jackson that's going to be flying them around the country, competing, trying to get them into some colleges and things like that. Unfortunately, they're both playing in the AAU tournament tonight, so they both had to log off early. But those are two guys that get it done in the classroom as well as on the court, and they're two guys that I'll heavily be leaning on in the next 2 years to communicate the message we're trying to get across and to be the leaders that we expect them to become.
What is the message?
Just like we talked about, the expectations. We want to represent Northport the way it's meant to be represented. We don't want guys going around acting as if they're better than people. We want good people in our program that are willing to, if they see someone that needs a door held for them, to hold the door for them. If they see someone that needs help on their homework, to help them on their homework. Anything that they can do just to be a better person. I think if you could do those things off the court, then when you step onto the court, there's no doubt that you're going to be a great teammate, and then that's how you can build something truly special.
So I'm going to go to Luke real quick, and I want you to talk about the leader, and Zach, you can join in too if you'd like, but I want you guys to talk a little bit about where you're at with the JV squad, and I saw you shake your head, Zach, when he started talking about footwork and everything else, and where that young man, because he wasn't playing, where he's at now. So I'm going to tee it up for you and let you kind of, because you had that head shake. I saw you doing it, and I do that a lot myself. So talk a little bit about him and what you saw the quality was and how the change happened.
Yeah, Elijah's a kid who's came a long way. I remember when I was just getting out of high school, just trying to figure out what I was doing. I would go over to the Morgan and there'd be a little kid who's wasn't that tall, maybe 5'11", pudgy. And I'm like, man, come on. I'm like, try to get in shape. And he would never take me serious. Fast forward to me coaching my year at Woodland. We played them. I think Coach Power was there. He didn't even play. I was like,
well,
what about
Matt Mitchell? You guys know Matt Mitchell, I'm sure,
yeah.
But Matt Mitchell said he didn't play until 8th grade.
Yeah. So, and then I don't know if you know this, but Malik Barber is his older brother.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So over the summer, I worked with Eli a lot, and he actually traveled to West Palm Beach with him for the second half of the summer last year. And he came back in way better shape than we thought he was going to. So I think once he starts taking it, I'm not saying he's not taking it serious, but commits and realizes that, wow, I could do something with this. That's when we're really going to see a big jump from where he is now to where he can get to.
Now, a quick question for you then, because being that you're young, your sophomore year.
My sophomore year.
Go ahead.
I made varsity on a very, very talented team, realized I wasn't going to play a lot, so I moved myself down to JV, and I think looking back on it, I'm glad I did. I don't regret it. I think it taught me a lot and taught me how much harder I needed to work, and I think it worked out for me in the long run.
So did you have that mindset?
You're
trying to instill in him?
Yeah, I did. I think I sat down with the coach sophomore year. I was like, Coach, what do I got to get better at? And he told me, I'll tell on the radio, I don't got no shame. He's like, you're the worst defender I've ever seen. And I instead of being like, whoa, arguing with him, like, no, I don't agree. I said, all right, Coach, I respect it. And the next 2 years, Coach Power can attest to this. I was on the best guy every night, doing whatever I could. And I think I was already my junior year and my senior year. So I think it worked out in the long run.
So you've got a little bit of leverage on yourself here, because now you can actually not just talk the game, you actually walk the game.
Yeah, and
you've got a lot of influence on these kids.
Yeah, and I think Elijah, right now he can be a leader, but he's struggling when to say stuff and how to say it. So he's showing some frustration. But I think once he learns this summer, he's going to learn how to be more vocal and go about things. So I think that's going to be good for his leadership as well.
Well, believe it or not, we're at the 3:53 mark in this show. And I can't believe we just chewed up all this time, but we've had so many people involved in this conversation. You guys are listening to WKDW Radio 97.5. Real Talk Radio, and having you guys on makes me realize that we might have to do this again real soon, because I don't know that we hit all the topics that Coach Power wanted to hit. Did we do you justice today on the show?
I think it's kind of represented what I'm hoping to bring and have established kind of over at the Northport High School is I want to bring in a lot of guys that I feel are great guys and can impact our players in a positive way. Like you said, when you walked into the gym to come to practice, I knew your background. I knew you had a relationship with people. And the first thing I thought was, I wonder what he can say to our kids or can see to bring something into our program. And the same thing can be said for Jamar Butler, who you introduced us to, was as soon as he walked in the gym, it's somebody that I have respect for and I have faith in that if he can bring something into the program, I'm not too proud to say I know everything. I would rather have the wealth of people.
Yeah, well, and not that I want to take anything away from coaching staff, because you all have some college background or high school background. You all have background, but kind of give some insight on Jamar and talk a little bit about the impact that he's made on the program this year. Not that he's any different than you guys, because he's definitely a teammate of the coaching staff.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very funny because I got a text from our athletic director that said Jamar Butler is in the area and he's interested in helping out at a high school. And first thing for me, when I was in high school, that's who I was watching. Mike Conley, Greg Oden. I was watching them play against Joakim Noah in the national championship. So when I heard the name, I knew it. When I heard he was coming to practice to just check it out, I had enough faith. Here's the practice plan I've already got typed up. We're just going to do what we normally do. We're not going to try to impress anybody. And that relationship between him and I and the coaches and I think what we were trying to teach the players is stuff that he also believed in, which is what made our relationship so authentic, is what we were doing as a program is things that he would want to instill in our guys. And having someone with the experience he has to be able to come into practice. And it was funny, the first day he came to practice, he mentioned probably 5 to 10 things. And they were things that we had said in the past. And we're like, we have no communication with him ever in our lives. He's played Division I. We might know what we're talking about here, and you might want to take it serious. And having him has been awesome.
There's something to be said about validation, isn't there?
It meant a lot to have someone like that walk in the gym. You never know if they're going to walk out going, this guy doesn't know what the heck he's doing, especially at my age, at 32. You don't know what to expect out of somebody like that. But to have him walk in and go, Coach, what you're doing felt like one of our college practices. Was one of the greatest compliments.
That's what he whispered in my ear within the first 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So that you want validation. The validation was you want him over because truthfully, the one factor that I remember just very specifically, because it wasn't hard for me to forget being a Buckeye. He said they're running practice like we did at Ohio State. Well, wait a minute. You're a high school. You're running practice like you had at Ohio State. He was so excited. He could hardly stand it.
Yeah. I think that's got the success we've had and the way that we practice, I think, go hand in hand with each other. I don't know what a lot of high schools in the area practice like or what they look like, but we have a very regimented practice where we're going to do drills for 2 minutes or 5 minutes, and we stick to our practice plan. We don't start a drill and go, it's not going well, we're going to spend another 20 minutes. We just hit on that drill, and if it's not going well, we take a note. This is what we need to do to make it better tomorrow. And I'm lucky enough to have Coach Mack, who's been an assistant coach since maybe the 20s. I don't know when he started his career.
I think it was before that. he was coaching at Northport before Northport knew Northport.
Yeah. So having him to be able to look over our practice plans, help me create them over the first 5 to 6 years, I think that helped push the program in the correct direction. And now I've been able to soak up all that knowledge and be able to impress somebody like Jamar walking into the practice.
Well, we've got a whopping 1 minute left, and I've got to be careful because I can't run over, but I definitely want to have you guys back on. We'll do this maybe once a quarter. I'd love to do it. Just even to talk about the summer ball and what that means and where you guys are going with that. So I want to thank you all, Guy. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day on the other coast to be part of this conversation. And truthfully, I've enjoyed this, and I look forward to having this more. And I wish you guys well. And I'll make sure I get over there more to see the team.
You got it. Thank you so much for having us all on. I truly appreciate it. Look forward to having another conversation.
Not a problem. You guys have a great day and enjoy yourself and be safe. This is John Rawlings with WKDW 97.5 saying thanks. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.
John.